When you hear the words of Jesus as recorded in the Bible, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. How do those words land on you?
I guess now's as good a time as any to mention I'm Jewish. I was raised Jewish in a predominantly Jewish community. I wouldn't call myself super religious, but hearing those words particularly, I was taught to kind of not take them. I mean, I shouldn't say not take them too seriously, but more like not think too much about those words, which I realize mostly just comes from how I was raised.
So I am a Muslim. And Muslims believe that Jesus was not the Son of God, but rather a prophet. The first half of that, he is a prophet, so therefore he did preach the way. He did preach the way we live our life. However, we wouldn't necessarily say that he is the only way to communicate between us and God, right? It's like all direct.
I think it's pretty strong words that Jesus is speaking.
Yeah.
I'm the way, the truth, and life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Some of us are mathematicians in here, and we know the words no one or all, they're like all-encompassing. And typically, big generalizations like that are hard to wrap your trust around, I'd say,
Right.
for just any human in general.
Yeah.
From my limited knowledge of the Christian faith, I would say those words definitely line up strongly enough that it makes sense to say a statement that's strong. And part of the beauty of statements as powerful as that, as we learn in math, is when they really do ring true, then it's more meaningful. So,
But he also claims that he is the truth. Not only does he dispel some truth or truth on some matters, but he's actually truth.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus is describing himself using that very strong language. You guys would only hear God saying. And so his language is similar to God's language.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean he's like a different God.
Right.
He's like, he is God in the flesh.
Yeah.
He's like God personified, really, realized in, in human form.
Are there strong claims in you guys' faith backgrounds that are similar to Jesus is I am this, I am that? Is there anything like that?
I mean, there was the claim about how God would say, I am God, I am the one God, I am eternal, and things like that, which I would say everyone can agree on with given our faith backgrounds.
I would agree with Mark here that a statement that enforces monotheism, right? There's only one God. There is no other being worthy of worship besides God or besides Allah for us. Another statement that could be a very absolute statement is the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the final messenger of God, as in there are no other messengers or prophets after him.
Yeah, that's a strong claim too.
Yeah.
I was raised in what's called a Reform synagogue, which means a lot of the more famous strict rules of Judaism were somewhat foregone. For example, more traditionally in an Orthodox church, you would split the genders. I think another one that's huge, and for me this is actually really important, is traditionally Judaism is passed down maternally. So in the Orthodox faith, you're not considered Jewish if your mom's not Jewish, and I'm a product of an interfaith marriage, where my mom is not Jewish and my father is. So I wouldn't be considered a member of any synagogue unless such rules were made that why does it have to be maternal? Maybe it shouldn't be such a rule.
Do you think that all religions lead to the same place or different places?
Okay. The idea of religion teaches that, there's more to life than what meets the eye, right? There's more to this world. And I think that's something that every religion has in common. It teaches you to think beyond just yourself. So I think religion is a personal means to gain salvation. Even if your beliefs are different, right? You all reach salvation. You all reach happiness and comfort and contentment with our minds and surroundings.
A lot of religions, even most, I would say, once you start approaching trying to find that salvation, trying to find what's bigger than you, you end up doing a lot of the same basic ideas showing humility, showing willingness to sacrifice and suffer a little bit for the much greater, more infinite kind of salvation, being nice to others.
Yeah.
And I think we've really kind of talked about what it's like to participate in religion from like our human perspective. But if we think about it from God's perspective, I think it's interesting if we go back to that analogy of people climbing up a mountain. If Jesus is the one that says, nobody comes to the Father except through me, that means really like he's sort of like a doorway or like a gate. So there's a lot of people who could be climbing and they might have satisfaction like, oh, I'm getting up the mountain. But if you haven't passed this door, then you know that you haven't reached the top of the mountain yet.
I guess I also would say like our professors, they set the standard for how we get the A in the class, you know? They have sometimes even a qualitative judgment on is this good quality or not. So if there is a God and he's at that top of that mountain, then I wonder like, does he have a certain standard? Like, is there a standard or can anyone get there?
We could pose it as a question like, if Jesus isn't part of the equation in the way that Christianity thinks of him as, then what are the ways that you guys see getting to the top of the mountain? How do you know that you've reached that point, I guess?
I think a lot of it's kind of tough to tell whether you've hit the summit of the mountain. I think it's a kind of very rabbinic thing to never get a clear answer, and a lot of people, especially like kids in Hebrew school, would ask things like, hear about this salvation and stuff, and are we getting there? And a lot of it is we're focused on the climb itself, and I guess there probably is a top, and you probably will achieve some kind of end result from it, but Judaism kind of deflects at least from my limited background in it, not necessarily deflects the question, but just like focuses more on other things on the climb. It makes me wonder whether we're just kind of circling around, still going upwards, but a less efficient rate towards this gateway that Jesus poses, that maybe we will find in some other way. Because in Judaism, we still believe that there will be that there is a prophesied Son of God that'll come down. It's just we didn't think Jesus was it.
The destination is the same, which if the destination is salvation and, you know, our perspective of what God's happiness with us looks like. If every religion leads to the same place, but they're all different methods of traveling, right? You could climb a mountain straight up, you could spiral and eventually reach the top, you could dig through the middle and then take an elevator up to top, right? The reason why these absolute claims are needed in these religions is so that because those paths, your faith is that those paths work, and those claims are needed to be made so that you don't veer off and, you know, get not distracted, but like you don't veer off the path that you are meant to take and, you know, get misled to, like, you know, not the peak, right? The purpose of these claims is not to dismiss other, you know, religions. It's not to make you feel superior towards others.
I appreciate that. I think as a Christian, as a follower of Jesus, those words that we heard at the beginning, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If I really believe that, it means that no one else comes to the Father except through Jesus. And so I feel like, personally, there's a lot of things I don't know about eternity and what life looks like after death. But if that is true, and if I believe it's true, I think what it does do for me is it motivates me to tell others about Jesus, because I want them to know him if he says he's the only way. So I guess, like, when I take him at his word, it definitely motivates me to want to tell others about what I believe.
Right.
Not to force them to believe, because I could never do that.
Of course.
But at least to give them the whole story.
Yeah.